والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وعلاه. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. The continuation of the series that we have been having about life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Today we'll bring in another topic that is very timely, especially if you look at the needy Muslims and the non-Muslims all over the world. Calamities that Muslims go through all over the world. And what is our responsibility towards that? We need to look back into the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he is our example. The community that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam led went through many calamities, many problems, and we need to look how the Prophet ﷺ handled such issues. Once Al-Suffa and many other companions of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ started coming to Medina, because from the beginning some people would become Muslims during the secret da'wah period, and the Prophet ﷺ said, go to your people, invite people to Islam. When you hear about the rise of Islam, come to me. Come to me. Come to me. He did this with Abu Dharr, with Tufayl ibn Amr, and others. And this is what they did when they realized the triumph of Islam. I mean, that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was able to start the Muslim state in Medina, where there is a refuge for every Muslim fleeing for his deen. They started coming in great numbers. And you know, there was no welfare in Medina. I mean, the people themselves were living a very simple life, especially if we take into consideration the great number of Muslims who traveled with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, migrated from Mecca to Medina. And many of them were also needy. They left everything behind for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it was when the practice of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, such a situation comes, that he would ask people to donate for the sake of Allah, for a number of reasons. And some people even will just bring a piece of bread, a palm full of dates, a small piece of cloth, a broken utensil, pot, anything that they could give. There is a purpose behind that. There is a purpose behind that. And the Prophet ﷺ said, اتقوا النار ولو بشق تمرة. I mean, seek protection from hellfire even with a half of a piece of date. Because sometimes we think it is only the rich people who give. People who are living a decent life, sometimes they shouldn't give because they don't have much. They don't have much. And Islam is teaching us how to give. And the Prophet ﷺ says, اليد العليا خير من اليد السفلى. Okay? The upper hand is better than, I mean, the giving hand is better than the receiving hand. Receiving hand. And the Muslim should really exercise giving in his or her life. And this is why you talk about, maybe you don't have money, you don't have a farm, you don't have crops to give zakah, and you don't have animals, I mean sheep, lamb, whatever. You don't have anything that is worth paying zakah for. But even there is one zakah that every Muslim should pay if they can, which is zakatul fitr. It is teaching us how to be a giving people. Because when you give, Allah will reward you. This is why the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith, مَا نَقَصَ مَالٌ مِّن صَدَقَةٍ بَلْ يَزِيدُ. No property, no wealth, no money is decreasing because of sadaqah. It is the opposite, it's increase. Because we believe in the blessings that we get when we give. And those people who give, I know them. Their wealth is multiplying. I know people who give for the sake of Allah. And they didn't get bankrupt. It is the opposite. Their wealth is increasing. And this is an example how the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was really encouraging us to give for the sake of Allah. No matter how little it is. Have piece of date. Will it make any difference? No. But if 1,000 people will give one piece of date, then you'll have a pile of dates. I mean, 1 meter of cloth or 1 yard will not make any big difference. But if you have 20, 30 people will be donating, so you could cover, you could dress many Muslims and Muslims. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ was really encouraging his companions to do that, to the extent that one time, you know, the Prophet ﷺ used to wear a bkhami's, something like this, but he used to wear, you know, the ihram, the dress of ihram, called rida wa izar, similar to that, izar, okay? Similar to that, okay? And they still wear it in many places of Tihana and many places in the world. So the Prophet ﷺ will take his rida, the upper cover, and put it on the floor and ask people to donate. And he's making an example for all of us, because the ummah goes in through, I mean, even neighborhoods, countries, Muslim countries, go in need. And this is life. One day you have, one day you don't. One day you give, one day you take. Okay? Although we have, you know, a certain amount of zakah prescribed to be given to 8 categories of people, among them the poor and the needy, etc. Okay? This is obligatory. And certain people who have, for certain, the nisab for anything, I mean, a capital, and a span of time, 1 year, okay, over that. But not every Muslim in the world is given zakah. There are many Muslims who are in need of zakah, so they have the right to be given the zakah. But there are many Muslims also who have some. They have some. If they don't train themselves to give, they will be continue to be at the receiving end. And Umar al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu, one day went into the masjid and he found somebody who was making i'tikaf, making salah all the time. Oh, every day he's in the masjid. He said, "What are you doing here?" He said, "I'm worshipping Allah in the masjid of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam." He said, "Fine, this is great. Who is taking care of your own sustenance? Who's supporting you?" He said, "My brother." He said, "Your brother is a better worshipper than you are." You see? And this is something unique in Islam, that it's a way of life. It's a way of life. Both of those brothers are doing a great job. Okay? But Islam teaching us to be independent. To be independent. Yeah. Not to be dependent on any, but on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That doesn't mean if I meet my brother, I go to him and say, "Brother, help me." No, I'm giving him a chance also to give and to show his own brotherhood to you. And this is why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was encouraging his companions to give. This is why there are some rich people among the companions of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like Abu Bakr. He came with all of his wealth and he gave it to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Umar came up with half of his wealth, and those were very wealthy people, very well-known businessmen. Uthman came with great wealth. He bought wells for the Muslims when they were about to die out of lack of water, thirst. Okay, and he paid a lot of money, so the Muslims will drink. But other Muslims will feel kind of sad because they cannot give. You cannot make that magnitude, okay? Because you didn't have that money. I have 1,000 riyals. If I give 1 riyal, that would be good. 2, 5 riyals, that's great. But if I have 10 millions and I give 5 riyals, you're laughing, you see? This is why we're taught, because to be generous, no matter how small it is. If I have 10 riyals and I give you 1 riyal, I'm giving you half of my, 1/10 of my wealth. If you have 10 millions and you give 1 million, you're giving 1/10 of your, so we are equal. I give 1/10 of my wealth. I don't have more than that. You see? So don't look how little we give, but we give. Some of the Salaf al-Salih, I forget the name of this companion, Prophet Muhammad, companion of scholars of Islam. He said he would give somebody, saw him in the masjid coming with an onion. And another day he came with some salt and he gave it to some. He put him to the side, took him to the side, and said, "Brother, what are you?" He said, "Because I don't have anything else in my house to give. And every day I want to give something for the sake of Allah." And he found people who would take that. He found people who would take that. And there are many places in the world, if you give an onion to somebody, he will take it from you because they need it. If you give some salt, they will take it. If you give one piece of tea, they will take it. One day they will take it. One biscuit, they will take it. Some people, if you give them 100,000 riyals, say, "I don't need it." But those people, they need it. They need it. So this is why training ourselves to give is very important aspect that the Prophet ﷺ has shown. And he practiced that himself. One day he slaughtered a sheep and he distributed some parts of it to his neighbors and other people. Aisha looked at said, "What did you do with the sheep?" She said, "We give all parts away and we keep this part." He said, "No. These are the parts that we kept and this is the one that we're giving away." He said, he's just giving an example. And this is something very important now among the Muslims, because sometimes a neighbor does not know about his neighbor or her neighbor. And the Prophet ﷺ encouraged that we should know about our brothers, sisters, relatives, close ones, our neighbors. Because sometimes we have extra. When we throw away, or will be spoiled. And we don't give it to others, to our neighbors. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ said, don't belittle what you can give to your neighbors. Even if it's a small piece, the leg of a sheep or a lamb, whatever. Sometimes people don't give these away because this is always going to make use of it, okay? No, give it. Somebody else is in need of it. And this is something very interesting when we looked at it from the other side. Recycling resources. You go to the garbage cans everywhere, trash, full of bottles, food sometimes, bread, all aspects that other people could make use of. Sometimes old clothes. I don't like this robe, I've been wearing it for 5 years. Somebody else will like it, thinks it's good. I got tired of this tagiyah that I don't want. Somebody else is willing to have it. Why not? I have this bread, I don't want to eat it anymore because it's a bit hard. But somebody else could just put some water in it, warm it, will become very nice. Some countries they dry bread, so they break it and they make food out of it. You see? So this is what I found in Africa. For example, they do with banana, because you cannot keep bananas for a long time; they get spoiled. What do they do with them? What do they dry them? Not only dry them. They slice them. They fry them on oil. When I looked at it, I was really surprised. I said, why? I said, we keep it for the whole year. It doesn't Spoil, you see? And if you give it to people, I try to eat it, I mean, it doesn't taste well to me because I have not got used to it. Okay, or you have other varieties that you eat from. And this is something that we look into the life of Prophet Muhammad, and you find even among his companions, people who used to take care of families, other people. Okay? For Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, you remember his situation with his relative, Mustah ibn Uthatha. Okay, this man spoke badly about Aisha radiallahu anha. Okay? And he was a relative of Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr was the father of Aisha. And when he knew about that, he said, Khalas, I will not pay him what I used to give him. He used to take care of him and his mother, his family. And he spoke against. Imagine, you do well to somebody, you keep donating to somebody, you give them sustenance, you take care of them, and they are really stabbing you on the back. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warned him. He said, no, don't do that. And Abu Bakr continued, because he said, Astaghfirullah. This is something that for the whole ummah, if we really feel about each other, there wouldn't be a single poor person in the Muslim ummah. There wouldn't be a single needy person in the whole 1.6 billion people, Muslims who live all over the world. But we don't think of that. Even I've seen many places in the world, people don't have anything to wear. No shoes, no sandals. They didn't have clothes, men and women. They didn't have food, they didn't have medication. I remember one time, how many pair of glasses do you have? How many? Those who wear glasses, how many of these do you have? Frames?
One.
Old ones. Do you have old ones? What do you do?
I give
to who?
Some needy.
Yeah, there are even people who need that. Okay? There are people who cannot see. Okay? And with a pair of glasses, they could read, they could see, they could learn. I even met people in some countries where they have, what they call it, I forget this kind of disease in the eye, that you cannot see. And the operation takes is worth $50. They couldn't pay it. $50. Sometimes you go to the restaurant in many Muslim countries and you eat with $50.
Yeah.
You buy candy and whatever to your kids. And these $50 could save somebody's eyes. Yeah, cataract. Yeah, cataract. I met a person who became a Muslim in Nigeria. He was an old man. He was not very old, 55, 60, okay? And he became a Muslim. He was Christian and he became Muslim. His family deserted him. His wife deserted him. His children ran away from him. He used to live a good life when he became Muslim. But what happened? A good Muslim adopted him as a father. You see, don't adopt him. Wallah ya akhwan, I visited them. And they were living in a small hut. But they were very happy. And the old man came with a very clean thobe, and he could not see. And he met him, said he was having cataract. It was like, even not $50, I don't remember, it was in northern Nigeria. And one fa'al khair, a person who donated for him. And the operation takes 15 minutes. And the man, imagine, how can you change the life of a Muslim for $50? How could you bring happiness into the life of a Muslim family with the 10 kilograms of rice? We don't seem to look at these things as they could make great, but we need to train ourselves to do that. Even in poor families, even in poor villages, if everyone in the village, most of the companions of Prophet ﷺ were very poor.
Yes.
Abu Hurairah was, one day, he was very hungry that he could not even go and sleep or whatever. And he was just moving around in Medina, in the heat of Medina. He said, I met Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, and I asked him about something, and he answered me. He said, I know that. I didn't ask him, but I was really shy to say, please take me to your house and feed me. And another person passed by him, And he asked him about something he wanted to say. Yeah, come with me home. Let's have lunch together. He said, I was really starving. Then the Prophet ﷺ passed by and he looked at me and he wanted to ask the Prophet ﷺ, said, Abahir, come, don't play games with me. Don't play games with me. And he took him to his house. When he came to the house, what happened? He said to the people of the house, do you have anything to eat or drink? They said, yes. Some people of Ansar gave us some buttermilk. You know buttermilk? Yes. Okay. They used to give to the Prophet ﷺ. He said, Abahir. He said, yes. He said, go and call all the people of Sufa. He said, there are about 40 people. He said, it was not enough for me and the Prophet. And he was very hungry, very thirsty. And when you're hungry and thirsty, you think you'll eat everything, you'll drink everything. He said, Abahir, go and call them. He said, go and call them. He went and brought them back to the Prophet ﷺ. And they were all very hungry, very thirsty, probably as thirsty and hungry as Abu Hurairah. And he said, Abu Hurairah, go ahead and give them. Imagine you're hungry. And he said, he gave it to everybody. They drank to their fill, said, Salamu alaikum wa Rasulullah. And they were the two of them, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Abu Hurairah. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, drink, Abu Hurairah. He said, no. He said, no, I will not drink. You will drink. Imagine. Humbleness of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Abu Hurairah started drinking. I'm thirsty. He said, drink for a second time. He said, oh, Prophet of Allah. He said, no, you'll find space for it. He was teaching a lesson. And he drank. He said, drink. He said, oh, Prophet of Allah, by Allah, I don't find any space for it. This is the barakah. And the Prophet later on, he drank. Maybe he was more thirsty than, and hungry more than everybody else. But even Abu Hurairah has to learn that even if you're hungry, you're thirsty, there are other people, they're hungry and they're thirsty. And you shouldn't care about yourself. You care also about others as well. And this is a lesson for us as Muslims. This is a story from the life of my father. Because my father was brought up as an orphan. And he had two sisters. They found 2 dates in the flock because their relatives were passing by and they were wealthy. But they didn't pay. They didn't care about those orphans and needy people. They brought these dates to their mother. Said, we found 2. They were going to cut it into 4 halves. The mother will take 1. The sisters will take 2, half and half, 1. And 1 half will be left for my father. But the mother started cutting it and gave it to all of them. She didn't eat from it. You see? Even those kids, they were poor. Those are my aunts. Yes. They didn't have even dates in their house. One time, they were brought up as orphans. And they didn't have anything. But see how they were willing to share. And this is what we need. The Prophet ﷺ is teaching us to share, no matter what we have. Even
it is one piece of dates.
Half a piece of dates. اتقوا النار ولو بشق تمرة. Even who doesn't have a piece of date, who cannot afford it? Imagine, we think we don't have. But we really have. And when you give, Allah will give you in abundance. In abundance. ما نقص ماله. We'll stop here talking about how the Prophet ﷺ taught us how to share what we have. How to take the initiative. Not to be at the receiving end. Even if you are receiving the end one day, you will be at the giving end if you really think. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك.